We are live from Tel Aviv on a day when the world has woken up to the horrific images from that Gaza hospital bombing. I'm Barkha Dutt, here with the Mojo story. For the last few days, we have been reporting from the epicenter of the war front, and the American president, Joe Biden, has just moments ago touchdown in Tel Aviv. He has met with Benjamin Netanyahu in what is considered to be a solidarity visit, but his visit is being shadowed by that horrific bombing that has taken place in Gaza. Gazan officials are saying more than 500 people, including women and children, have been killed in those bomb strikes. While Gaza has blamed the Israeli military, the IDF has released what it calls conclusive proof to argue that this was done by what they're calling a misfired rocket from the Islamic Jihad. In this special broadcast, we'll be looking at both the geopolitics, Biden's statement, what Biden would be looking to do, but also bring you ground reports from the epicenter of the war. We have been 1 mile near the Gaza Strip. Let me introduce our special guests on the program today. Let me bring them up one by one. Welcoming to the program, Professor Eyal Zisser. You are, of course, the Vice Rector of the Tel Aviv University and a Middle East expert. It's good to see you. I'm very much hoping you can hear me. And also joining us from India is military veteran and strategic affairs expert, General Sanjay Kulkarni. Thank you very much, both of you, for your time. Let me start straight away with a little clip that actually captures that moment when bombs fell down on the Gaza hospital, a story that is now shadowing the Biden visit. Take a look.
Ya Allah! Ya Allah! Ya Allah! مستشفى انجليزي مستشفى انجليزي يا رب الحمد لله يا رب.
All right, horrifying images. Let me also just play out what the IDF has said in response. The IDF spokesperson has issued a statement saying that it is the Islamic Jihad and what they're calling a misfired rocket that is responsible for this. This is what the IDF spokesperson said on record.
I want to give you an announcement of the event that occurred in the hospital in Gaza. I can confirm that an analysis of the IDF operational systems indicates that a barrage of rockets was fired by terrorists in Gaza, passing in close proximity to the Al-Hali Al-Ma'adi hospital in Gaza at the time it was hit. Intelligence from few sources that we have in our hands indicates that the Islamic Jihad is responsible for the failed rocket launch which hit the hospital in Gaza. I repeat, this is the responsibility of Islamic Jihad that killed innocents in the hospital in Gaza.
Let me get in first comments. I'll start with you, Professor Zisser. If you can hear me, the Gaza hospital bombing is completely, in a way, drowning out the entire Biden visit. Of course, we have two competing claims, but the overall situation, I want your first comments, sir.
Well, first of all, it's not only the Israeli claim, it's also what President Biden, President Biden made many leaders all around the world and also the media accepted the Israeli argument. But let me say very clear, I think that in Israel, unlike the terrorists of Hamas, nobody is happy when civilians are being hit. When you see a civilian dead, it's horrible. It's a tragedy. Unlike Hamas, whose all main is to kill Israelis, who fire deliberately at Israeli cities, I don't think anyone in Israel is happy to see such events, which are a result of the tragedy, and I feel pity and sorry for those people. Yes, I think that this change, of course, the course of events, because President Biden planned to hold a summit with Arab leaders to try to look for a solution for the conflict. Now, Arab leaders cannot face their public opinion, so they are afraid of Hamas and of the threat of Hamas. They will not host President Biden, but I think that once the international community, and I mean mainly the United States, the important allies, accepted the Israeli position, there is a change for the coming days. It will not change the course of event, because once Israel is not considered by the Americans and the Western countries as responsible for this attack, it will let Israel continue for some time the military operation.
I think you're making a very important point from the point of view of whether the operation, the ground assault into Gaza will continue. And it is indeed true that President Biden, in his opening remarks, did evidently seem to accept the Israeli military versions of events. Before I play out that exchange between Benjamin Netanyahu and President Biden, I just want to play out a very, very horrific image out of Gaza, where the director of the hospital that was bombed spoke to the media, surrounded by body bags and corpses all around him. Take a look.
لأقول لهم وللعالم أجمع اليوم هذا العدو الذي يهدد هذه المستشفيات تحت سمع العالم وبصره ولا يحرك العالم ساكنا ولا يتخذ إجراءات رادعة ولا يتخذ إجراءات حاسمة باتجاه هذا العدو، فإنما كان يتلقى العدو رسالة اطمئنان ورسالة سماح بأن يقصف المستشفيات، وقد أتم هذا الأمر في هذا اليوم في هذه المجزرة الوحشية التي قل أن نسمع بمثيلها في العالم الحاضر، وإنما نسمع عنها في تلك العصور البائدة التي تحكي قصص الوحشية والفاشية التي يتمثلها اليوم هذا الاحتلال.
Yes, let me only one small comment. They expected us that they sent their terrorists to beheaded our babies and we shouldn't do anything. This is not acceptable by Israel. Israel is not accepting the equation that they have the right to send their terrorists to massacre Israeli babies, to take Israeli babies hostages, and we have no right to defend ourselves. This is totally rejected by Israel.
I understand. And I think, General Kulkarni, the challenge is, how do you allow Israel the right to response while still keeping the humanitarian challenges that have been thrown up by this Gaza hospital bombing, where there are, of course, multiple versions now of what has happened, who is responsible, and so on. Just your opening comments, and then we'll play out the Biden-Netanyahu clip.
Thank you, Barkha. I think absolutely horrific incident. There is no denying the fact, but that there is again no denying the fact a lot of the fleeing Palestinians would be taking shelter in all these hospitals for their own safety. But the images that you've shown is indicative of what they call as a misdirected or a bomb, because whenever you're firing, and all of them are crude bombs which the Hamas are firing, they're all sort of do not have that finesse in them. They're just firing because they have to get into Israel one way or the other. In that context, one of these bombs can have a misdirected, go in a direction, or fall short. And when they fall short, it may have just fallen in the car park of that hospital, which has resulted in a blast, car blast, and subsequent then the destruction that has caused over there. Had it been an airstrike, let's presume that if it had been an airstrike, it would have had a very totally different impact. This impact is explosion impact. And
so hang on, because you're the second expert to say this. You also believe this is not from the air, this is from the ground.
Absolutely, Barkha. Reason is, you see the fireball. The fireball is indicated. If there is an explosion, you will find it instant fireball. When there's a strike, you won't find fireball. You'll find first smoke, dirt, muck, everything flowing up. This is an explosion which has taken place, which has resulted because the cars which are parked over there, led to fire and then subsequent engulfing the entire hospital over there. Because There was no point of time. Who wants to sabotage the visit of the President of the United States to Israel? Nobody. Not the Israelis wouldn't want to sabotage the visit of the President. The
So
President
you
is coming in a war zone. Why would he want to visit in a war zone when such a thing as the
So
Israelis would do?
you,
Not possible.
so you believe, General Kulkarni, that the Israeli military has not missed a target or hit a hospital directly. You don't even believe this is an airstrike. Therefore, you don't even agree with the IDF version that it's a missed target, a rocket target by the Islamic Jihad. You believe this is an explosion on the ground, a bomb on the ground.
Not a bomb on the ground. When the rockets are being fired, it is like a mortar bomb. When it is
Yeah.
fired, if it has, it falls short of a target. If it is to go for 9 kilometers, it might just fall at 2 kilometers itself, and thereby it has a mid-air explosion or can just have anything else other than the intended target. And therefore, this is not because the Israelis wouldn't want to sabotage the visit of the president. The Israelis wouldn't want. Why would the president of America land in the war zone? You are there in the war zone from ground zero, risking your life. Would the president of America risk his life coming there? Is risking his life primarily to ensure that there is some kind of a solution and that the war ends between Israel and Hamas. The Israelis aren't fighting the Palestinians, they're fighting the Hamas terrorists. And that is what is very important to know. And yes, the Israelis have suffered first, then this is a retaliation. But all this time, the retaliation has been by announcement. The Israelis have been saying, vacate North Gaza, vacate this portion, we are going to bomb this portion, we are going to bomb that portion. And I think this is entirely something which has happened. And again, the Palestinian Islamist Jihad were the ones who were directing all their fire against Israel before Hamas entered on the 7th of October. All this time, it was the PIJ which was doing it to instigate Israel, and Hamas were watching from the sidelines to watch the reaction.
Okay, all right. The fact is that President Biden, before he took off, actually said that the Americans were making their own assessment of who was responsible for the Gaza hospital bombing. But when he landed here, his first comments in the presence of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu seemed to actually indicate that he accepted the Israeli account of how that hospital bombing took place. Before I come back to both of you, I want to play out the full interaction, the opening comments at that meeting between President Biden. Just can we take a look at that, please? Yes.
Mr. Prime Minister, thank you very much. Look, folks, I wanted to be here today for a simple reason. I wanted the people of Israel, the people of the world, to know where the United States stands. I've had my great Secretary of State here. He's been here for a while, but I wanted to personally come and make that clear. Terrorist group Hamas has slaughtered, as has been pointed out, over 1,300 people. And it's not hyperbole, it's just slaughtered, and including 31 Americans as part of that. And they've taken scores of people hostage, including children. You said, imagine what those children hiding from Hamas were thinking. It's beyond my comprehension to be able to imagine what they're thinking. Beyond my comprehension. They're committed evils that and atrocities that make ISIS look somewhat more rational. You know, Americans are grieving with you. They really are. And Americans are worried. Americans are worried because we know this is not an easy field to navigate what you have to do. But the fact is that Israel, as they respond to these attacks, it seems to me that have to continue to ensure that you have what you need to defend yourselves. And we're going to make sure that occurs, as you know. And we have to also bear in mind that Hamas does not represent all the Palestinian people. And it has brought them only suffering. You know, years ago, I asked the Secretary of State when he and I were working in the Senate to write something for me, and he said, he wrote a line that I think is appropriate. He said, it's not, we lead, not just, well, I won't go into it, I'll wait later, taking too much time. But the point is this, that I was deeply saddened and outraged by the explosion at the hospital in Gaza yesterday. And based on what I've seen, it appears as though it was done by the other team, not you. But there's a lot of people out there not sure. So we got to overcome a lot of things. And it also means encouraging life-saving capacity to help the Palestinians who are innocent, caught in the middle of this. And well, at any rate, that's who we are. Not just me, but I mean, that's who the United States is. And it's just not the example of our power, it's the power of our example. It's almost as important. The world's looking. Israel has a value set like the United States does and other democracies. And they're looking to see what we're going to do. So, Mr. Prime Minister, I'm very happy to be back in Israel with you. Thank you for having me, and I'm looking forward to having a thorough discussion about where everybody goes from here. But thank you, and I want to say to the people of Israel, their courage, their commitment, their bravery is stunning. It's really stunning. I'm proud to be here. Thank you. Thank
For the Israeli account there, General Kulkarni. What did you make of President Biden's opening remarks?
Solidarity with the Israelis, hope that the incident does not flare up any longer, and that he's convinced that even the hospital incident, which is subsequently when it comes out, that it is to do everything with the Hamas or the associated terrorists, could be the PIJ, could be Hamas, anybody else, but definitely not the Israelis. And I go along with it because I personally firmly believe there's no way when a president of the United States who stands with Israel and who's also a very dear friend of the Prime Minister of Israel, who's flown all the way in the war zone to see to it that there is humanitarian assistance to be provided to the Gaza, that this entire incident between Israel and Hamas must end. There should not be more loss of life and all that. If that be so, who would want to do it? Israelis wouldn't do it. And I am fully convinced it has been done either by the PIJ, because the Hamas leadership is wiped out. Now, who next in Gaza Strip to take control if the President of America is advising the Israelis that do not capture Gaza? That's his first advice. Do not capture Gaza. Well, what you've done, destruction of Gaza is fine, but capturing and holding Gaza may not be in the interest of Israel. In that context, I'm sure there's a jostle between for the leadership role, and who better than this? Next best was the PIJ, another terrorist organization, which would be vying for the leadership role after the Hamas leadership has almost been exterminated. There's very little of it being left. In that context, I feel there is no doubt about Barkha. It is the plot to sabotage the visit, to try and get the Muslim world together against Israel, and to be able to show Israel in a poor light that the civilians are being targeted. It is not so.
You actually think, you're making a very grave allegation, you actually think this is an attempt, a deliberate attempt, not anybody's accident, a deliberate attempt to sabotage President Biden's visit and the Israeli position. Is that what you're saying, General Kulkarni?
See, would be very difficult to say whether it has, but yes, visit to be sabotaged, no doubt about that. Whether this particular thing is at a shortfall or, well, an accident, it is by the terrorist organization. It is not by an airstrike. 100%. I'm quite convinced about it, Barkha.
Okay, those are strong words there. Professor Zisser, before I play out actually what the IDF claims are intercepts of a Hamas conversation, I want your comment. What will Israel be looking towards President Biden to be doing and saying at this moment? Can we unmute Professor Zisser? I'm not able to hear him.
No, yeah.
Yeah, now I can. Go ahead, sir. Yes,
okay.
Yes.
So first of all, there is the possibility of escalation, because Hamas is part of a much bigger axis. It has with him Hezbollah in Lebanon and Iran, and there is always the possibility that, for example, Hezbollah will join the war and drag Lebanon into a war, and that Iran will join the war. So the visit is, of course, to deter those players from interfering. This is one thing. The second thing is what to do indeed with Gaza politically and from the humanitarian aspect, because it's hard to accept that what happened in the past, you know, a round of violence and then Hamas is coming back, make some sort of comeback. So what to do about it? I mean, how to prevent Hamas from making so-called coming back to a comeback to rule the Gaza Strip and then rebuild its arsenal and its military power. What should be done about it? What alternative all countries can offer to the civilian population in Gaza, to Gaza and to the Israelis and Palestinians? In this context, we have to say that, you know, consultation with other regional leaders like Abu Mazen, like Sisi of Egypt, like the Jordanian king are very important. But those are chicken, you know, they are afraid for the stability in their country. They can't withstand, you know, any public protest or and they don't want to take part in it because they can be blamed as, you know, those who are working for Israel or for the United States. So they are ready to sacrifice the Palestinians in order to avoid any criticism for themselves. So it's basically left to the Americans to try to look and see if there are any prospects for a better future politically and as far as the military situation on the ground.
Right. I want to actually play out for you now intercepts that have been released by the IDF claiming to have caught the Hamas on tape owning this attack. So let's just listen to those intercepts and we'll come back for more on this special broadcast live from Israel.
بس بقول لك أول مرة بنشوف الصاروخ زي هيك والشظايا هذه فبقول لك تبع الجهاد الصواريخ الجهاد الإسلامي هاي إيه فهم بقولوا تعاون الجهاد الإسلامي إنه من عندنا هذا شكله من عندنا مين اللي بيقول هيك؟ بيحكوا إنه الشظايا تبعت الصاروخ إنه الشظايا محلية مش زي شظايا إيش بتقول؟ سبحان الله من عندنا ما لقاش غيرين بجرسبي عاد هذول تلاقيهم من المقبرة الورا دي بثلاث محط فيهم ايش اصدر بتلاقيهم طالعين من المقبرة الورا المستشفى المعمداني دي اللي هو فسه ونزل عندهم. هو في مقبرة وراه؟ المعمداني يقول لك عند الساحة بالضبط. هي وين لما تدخل على الساحة؟ أول ما تدخل على الساحة تدخلش على البلد عيدك اليمين في مستشفى المعمداني. عرفتها.
Comments on that, General Kulkarni?
This convinces me more, Barkha, after you played the tape, that there is a conversation. They know that something has got misdirected. They know there's a symmetry close to it. There is something which has happened wrong. And that is why this conversation is taking place. That I think they are, what I could read and understand is there is a discussion between two wanting to say, has it got misguided? Where has it landed? What has it happened? And they're saying, well, it is closer to the hospital and whatever that be so. So it's surely they're doing whatever it be, whether it is, well, I can't for sure say that it was premeditated, but definitely an accident, one, or if it is premeditated, it is to sabotage the visit, knowing fully well that should Jordan, Egypt, and the Palestinian Authority president, all three of them talk, there'll be so much of, you know, the kind of world that is divided between the Muslim and the non-Muslim world, and amongst the Muslim world, a sizable amount of people still standing along with America. And there is a little bit of a internal fights which is going on. And therefore, it suits both. It suited Jordan, it suited Egypt, it suited the Palestinian Liberation Authority president also to stay away from talks. And it just happened that, well, that misdirected bomb worked it, and it has happened on Tuesday with the purpose to let not that visit be a success of the United States president to Israel, because the visit was primarily to halt the fighting which is going on. And I'm quite convinced that you will soon find that there will be a ceasefire, there will be a reduction in violence. All of it will lead to peace And I don't think these things will now move towards accelerated level of violence. It will now somehow cool down because the temperatures are extremely, extremely high, and nobody, Iran will not enter the war. Jordan will not enter the war. Egypt will not enter the war. Hezbollah was testing waters, but Hezbollah has got it back very badly. They would not want to enter the war. In this context, Hamas leadership is totally finished. Hardly few are left. The kind of destruction caused in Gaza is indicative that, well, even the Palestinians staying there would have thrown their hands up, and Hamas, which whatever is left of it, would have thrown the towel. And as a result of which, Israelis will not invade Gaza. Much of it has already been destroyed. I think they left the seas of Gaza. Some humanitarian assistance will be permitted, and you will find slowly and steadily in the next about 3-4 days things will ease.
That's very interesting. You actually believe, General Kulkarni, that at this point Israel will not go ahead with its ground incursion into Gaza?
Yes, positively it will not.
Let me ask Professor Zizzer that in a moment, but in the meantime, in Jordan and in the West Bank, you are actually seeing protests erupt. The Israel embassy was stormed in Jordan by protesters after the Gaza hospital bombing. Let's take a look at what's happening in Jordan first. We can play that video. All right, and let me also show you what's happening in the West Bank now on the ground, where too there are protests. Professor Zisser, General Kulkarni believes that actually the inflection point is such that things, while they seem terrible right now, will get better, and that this is a moment when Israel will not actually enter Gaza. It's achieved, in a sense, what it has to. Do you agree with that?
Well, he has a point, but we'll have to wait and see what arrangement can be found on the ground and what solution can be. I mean, there is public pressure inside Israel on the government to ensure that Hamas wouldn't be anymore a threat to Israel. So if there is a solution or arrangement that can prevent any future threat, I think you don't need any military action on the ground. But
that's very interesting.
Yes, but we have to wait. But we have to wait and see what happened in the future.
So both of you seem to believe that perhaps there's a chance that we won't see military escalation, we won't see other countries drawn into this war. But as we know, both President Abbas and King Abdullah have postponed their meetings with President Biden, where he was going to meet them to discuss a humanitarian corridor out of Gaza. Those meetings have now been cancelled after the bombing of the hospital. Now, while both of you are saying that we may not actually see a situation where the military even goes into Gaza, I spent a lot of time 1 mile from the Gaza Strip, right at the war zone, and literally 5 minutes we heard bombs go off. We were right at the edge of the kibbutz Be'eri, which was one of the sites of the worst massacre by Hamas, which is now the front line of the war. And rockets were coming in from Gaza. Mortar fire was being returned by the Israelis. Take a look. The rocket casings were right at our feet. Take a look at this report. So just to show you how close we are to the front line of the war, these are the rockets that have come in from the Gaza Strip just moments ago, even while we were inside the kibbutz Be'eri, and we heard, I don't know, so many explosions, more than 20. And here our guide Ellie is showing us another part of a rocket that has fallen. What are we seeing here?
This is part of the rocket that they're reviving here, destroy the cars that they're parking here in the party.
Yeah.
And also this one. This is from this last week.
And we're just about a mile from the Gaza Strip, right?
Yeah, Gaza Strip, when you've been with
that side, yeah. But we're very close, and they've been targeting, as you can see, from the rockets that have been falling here. And you just heard an explosion. Even as I'm standing here, you can hear the explosions. And these are rockets. Look up.
Boom.
And there, you can see that. You can see the rocket there, right there in the sky, the trail of smoke. If the camera turns around here, let me show you where we are. We are just outside the kibbutz Be'eri, and we just heard
the Iron Dome.
Explosions go off in the Iron Dome.
The Iron Dome. Another one over there.
The Iron Dome is intercepting the rockets that are coming from Gaza.
The rocket coming from Gaza. Another one. Bam.
There, I can see that right in the sky. So we've been talking about these explosions while we've been here at the kibbutz Be'eri. And if the camera comes down, again, I'm going to tell you that we're standing at one of the worst massacre sites. And if the camera pans up to the sky, you can now hear the Iron Dome. You can see those little plumes of smoke in the sky, intercepting the rockets everywhere. And here, let me show you through the sound of explosions. Can the camera please follow me here? You can see parts of the rocket that have fallen right where we were standing. And once again, let the camera move up. Ellie, we're seeing the sky filled with these white plumes. Tell us what we're seeing. You counting?
Everything. If you have 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
That they attack the missiles that you have one like that downstairs here.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the good jobs of the Iron Dome.
Yeah, the good job of the Iron Dome, Israel's famed Iron Dome, intercepting those rockets from Gaza, but some have fallen here. Let me leave you with this image to give you a sense of how close we are to the war front. Just about a mile, the officer said, from the Gaza Strip, and the explosions literally every few minutes, signaling the beginning of a war offensive. So at the war zone, at the front line, it doesn't look like de-escalation at all. I want final comments from both of you. General Kulkarni, I'll start with you. What gives you reason to believe that the worst might be over?
Yeah, Barkha, preparation is the best form of defense. They are not going to give up. So all these lining up of the tanks, all out in the open, the BMP, the ICVs, all of it. But the air strikes will continue, drone strikes will continue, the artillery will continue to fire. And you see the depth of Gaza, at the least is about 6 kilometers, max is 12 kilometers. So all of these artillery rockets, mortars can direct. And therefore, even this shortfalls can occur on the Gaza front. Shortfalls, and well, the Israelis have definitely more weapons with more precision. And you can see what you have seen on ground. They are more like improvised rockets, do not have that detailed sophistication. And therefore, you can make out that they're made and manufactured in Gaza by all kinds of things. And you find all of it, this Iron Dome is there. Now they have lasers also shooting them down. But believe you me, an Iron Dome, one rocket, one missile of the Iron Dome cost them about $80,000, whereas an ordinary rocket fired from Gaza cost them only 25,000 rupees. So that is the difference. Whereas if it is a laser, it just costs them about less than $4 to bring down one Gaza missile at any point of time. So work is on, but this posturing will carry on, but they are not. For the last 4-5 days, the Israelis are all along the Gaza border. They have not entered Gaza because Gaza is totally destroyed. It's extremely difficult even for tanks now to move the way the amount of, you can see the buildings being brought down and the kind of muck that is there in Gaza, plus 500 kilometers of tunneling below is also very, very dangerous and a huge challenge for the infantry soldiers to be able to negotiate. So I think the de-escalation, now it is plateaued out, slowly and steadily we'll find things under control. All these protests also are indicative that Israel will not cross the Gaza and try and make sure the pressure is on with airstrikes, drones and artillery and mortar fire. Yeah.
Well, I think the world will hope that you are correct. I'm not sure. There is also, Professor Zisser, the exact opposite scenario that can play out, which is that the front opens in the north with the Hezbollah. You've already seen the Israelis strike those targets, 28 communities evacuated. You could see the Arab world erupt, not accept the Israeli account of the Gaza bombing. Where do you see this going?
Well, first of all, we need to hope that we'll not see any further escalation. on the northern front and in other places. I think if Hezbollah wanted to join this war, he would have done it many days ago. So he's still is deterred and very careful not to bring a total escalation. Now, we'll have to wait and see. In a sense, you know, the United States is the one that will dictate whether it give free hand to the Israelis. Let's hope, because eventually people want, on both sides, to have normal life, So this is the hope.
It's
And
interesting. Of all
Barkha,
this,
with three carrier groups in the Mediterranean Sea, you think anybody would want to now escalate it? Definitely not. I think it's time for de-escalation. Yeah, Barkha.
I'm just saying it's interesting because being in the war zone, and being so close to the rockets and explosions, you don't think the de-escalation is a possibility. But I very much hope both of you are correct, that from here onwards we see a kind of coming down of temperatures. But I think, as Professor Zisser said, a lot will depend on what position the Americans take. Will it be a restraining one? Will it be a go ahead and do what you want to? And we should know more in the next few hours. Thank you very much, Professor Zisser and General Kulkarni, for talking to us. Our continued coverage here from the war zone will continue. We will have special broadcasts through the day on President Biden's visit and the bombing of the Gaza hospital, as well as the Israeli offensive in retaliation for the Hamas terror attack. Thank you for watching. Take care.
Loads of good wishes to you, Barkha.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.